are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more complaining people. Their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more, no more.
So often, because of humans' negativity bias, it's easy for us to get caught up in what's going wrong and focusing on what is going wrong and to get triggered by negative things. A little thing happens and we get bugged by it and we get upset by it. The other day when I was flying, it's a 6-hour flight from Miami, 5 hours and 41 minutes to San Francisco, direct flight. And I was sitting in the middle seat and there was a woman next to me who was working, which is great. And while she was working, she was using a mouse on her little tray table. And every time she used her mouse, she would bump me with her elbow. And because I was tired and everything else, my mind just kept focusing on that. I was sitting there and I was having trouble on the plane, trouble going to sleep because I kept getting bumped. And I was struggling because I had this, you know how your mind goes, well, she should know, she shouldn't do that. And so I finally just very nicely asked her, I said, you probably don't realize this, but, and I explained it to her, you're bumping me every time you do this. I'm trying to go to sleep. And so every time you do, I wake up, even though it's a little thing. And she was very, very nice. And she stopped doing it pretty much. I had to tell her again, but she didn't realize it was no big deal. The point I'm trying to make is that in every situation, there are going to be little irritations that bug us. And what we need to look for is anchors. And anchors are things that make us grateful. You'll see what I mean. One of the things that Teddy loves, and of course, Teddy is staying with a friend while I'm here in San Francisco, my little dog, Teddy, is that for a dog, Teddy, I told you I'm not quite awake yet. It's 5 o'clock here on the West Coast. Anyway, Teddy, for a dog, loves to be picked up and held, which is atypical for most dogs. He loves to be picked up, loves to be held. And a lot of times I'm busy. I'm moving around doing things at the apartment, cleaning or work, or I'm going to go play pickleball or something like that. And Teddy just wants to be held. And when you pick him up, he not only just wants to be held so he can look around, he literally puts his paws on my shoulders and hugs me. And I've decided that when he wants to do that, to give that an extra few minutes and anchor myself in the love that dog has for me. So that's what I mean by anchors. In that moment, my mind is going, okay, I'm busy. My mind is also going, oh, okay, well, I can pick him up anytime. This is not a convenient time. My ego mind always tells me this is not a good time to take an extra few minutes and sit there and hug my dog. But that's the thing that grounds me. That's the thing that anchors me. That's the thing that makes me feel good. When I wake up in the middle of the night, he's always right there next to me, usually up against my hip or my shoulder. And when I wake up in the middle of the night, I always just lean over and pet him and everything to anchor myself in my sleep, knowing that he's there, that he loves me, etc., etc., etc. What we often anchor ourselves to are things that are going wrong, things that we're not happy about, things that we're upset about, things that we keep reminding ourselves, oh, this is the problem. And that's what complaining does. People think that complaining is going to somehow ultimately make a person happy. If they only complain enough, if they get it all out, then ultimately they're going to be happy. But that's not really why people complain. People are anchoring themselves in the negativity to get attention, as we've talked about, remove themselves from responsibility, have power, excuse poor performance, brag, etc. Those are the reasons people complain. So they're anchored in that. So I was sitting, what made me think about this was I was sitting at the pool where I live. And as you know, I'm one of the few people who live there full time. And they're people who come through all the time, tourists. And I was sitting at the pool and I noticed these two men and the kiddie pool, which is a lot of adults do. They just relax in the kiddie pool. And these two men were in the kiddie pool, and they were facing the edge of the pool, and they had their phone. And I kept hearing this meme that I had seen on TikTok, something back. I haven't looked at TikTok in months because it's a time suck. You find yourself just doom scrolling on TikTok, just constantly looking at it. And these men were sitting there at this pool. And I know they're tourists, so they paid, they saved money, they paid, they came. Here they are in one of the most beautiful spots in the world. People call it paradise. And the whole time they were at the pool, which a lot of people do, they were anchoring themselves on TikTok rather than anchoring themselves in their environment, relaxing, being where they are, feeling the energy and the gratitude of being there. Yesterday, after I got up and had some lunch, or breakfast rather, I went for a walk here through the vineyards in Napa Valley. And it is so beautiful. And to be able to walk right through the vineyards with the grapes on either side of you, and to be able to stop and look at the grapes and take pictures, and there were some beautiful birds flying around, and it was a wonderful experience. So as I walked, I came up this hill and I found this beautiful gazebo, and I decided to anchor myself in that moment. I practice Zazen, which we've talked about before. Zazen is called sitting meditation. It's a mindfulness meditation where you focus exclusively on what is present. You don't focus on anything that is not there, anything you're going to do, anything you had done. And I anchored myself in that moment, in the beauty of just being there. And I invite you to do that as well, to look for moments to anchor yourself in the good things that are going on. When Leah and I were at Universal Studios, standing in line waiting to get on rides, so often you heard people just anchor themselves in how long the damn line is. You know, this is what I'm going to focus on. This is where my attention is going to be. I'm going to focus just on the fact that it is inconvenient that I have to stand in this line. And the people were just on and on, the lines. And the interesting thing is that at Universal Studios, you know how long the line is when you get on, because it actually displays it as you're about to get on the ride. And more importantly, we've got an app. There's an app at Universal Studios that tells you when the various rides are open and how long the waits are and if they're down, etc. So it's very convenient. But it was just interesting to hear people who, you know, having paid all this money and come to a very cool place, tend to spend their times anchored in, focusing on what is wrong. And I think a lot of people do that as well. We want anchors. We want good memories. We want to feel that feeling that our dog or our child or our parents love us, and to take a moment to actually be in that moment. Because, and I'm not the first to say this, obviously, but we've talked about this many times. In the end, life is life, and it's going to be over. Like the moment that I'm spending right now is unique. It's different. And it is life right this moment. Whether I had done the Jumpstart or not done the Jumpstart, that would have been life for me. I wanted to get up and anchor myself in your presence this morning is the main reason I decided, excuse me, to get up and do the Jumpstart, was that I like to anchor myself in your presence, to be with you who are here with me on a regular basis. So think about the things that we anchor ourselves to. I remember when my dad was dying, had gotten old and was in a nursing home. And my younger brother anchored himself in the resentment of having to take care of my father. Whenever you talk to him, that was his thing. And he was anchored to that. Think of a boat being held by an anchor. And our anchors should be there to help us focus on the good things in life. Who loves you? Who's your friend? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. The other day, because of COVID, I hadn't been able to get out since I moved to Key Largo, really. And my mind was like, well, you know, I feel a little sorry for myself. I had a little pity party. I was like, well, you don't really have any friends here. And I know better than that. So what I decided to do was sit down with my journal and write out the friends that I have. And what I discovered was, number one, I do have a lot of friends. Number two, what was interesting was once I did that, that day, I met some new people who could potentially become new friends. When we anchor ourselves in not enough money, not enough friends, not enough love, not enough good times, then that's what we perpetuate because metaphysically, that's what we're focusing on. What we want to do is anchor ourselves in the good things. So when your kids come up to you or your grandkids or whatever, and you're being grandma or grandpa or mom or dad and you're working with them, take a moment just to appreciate them. Like I do with Teddy when he's lying there asleep next to me. I wake up and one night I was like, one day I'm going to wake up and he won't be here. Simply statistically, I mean, he's 3 years old. Dogs live 12 to 15, maybe 18 years. And I've got at least that many good years left in me. And so at some point, he's not going to be there. And so I wanted to appreciate him even more. Everybody in your life is eventually going to be gone. Every situation that you have is eventually going to be gone. And the shame in life is to get to the end and just have all these things that upset you and that you're not happy about, and all these things that keep you focused and anchored in the problem rather than appreciating what is good and what is going well. We all know people like this. We all know people that are anchored in what's good and what's great and what's working and what they're happy about. And we also know people who are anchored in what's wrong, when's the next wrong thing going to happen, etc., etc., etc. I remembered thinking about this because there was a picture of me and my ex-wife in Seattle. And I saw it the other day and it was a great picture. And as I was looking at it, I remembered, though, that we had had an argument right before the picture was taken. I don't remember what it was about, but couples argue. And so even though we were smiling, my anchor for that moment is not what a great picture and there's a Space Needle behind us. My anchor is I remember that we weren't really very happy in that moment. And that's a choice. I can begin to anchor myself on all the other wonderful things that we did do in Seattle. Like we took a underground Seattle tour. Really fascinating if you've never done it before. Seattle actually burned to the ground, pretty much like San Francisco did back in the 1800s. And what they did was built right on top of it. And then over time, people went in and excavated it. So a lot of the original stores, buildings, et cetera, are still underground. And we went and did that. And so I said to myself, I don't want to I don't want to anchor myself in the disagreement we had. I want to anchor myself in all the other fun things we did and eating onion rings at FX McCrory's, et cetera. The bottom line is your mind is going to seek to focus on something, to anchor you to something. And what you want to do is to find things that anchor you to love, peace, prosperity, happiness, acceptance. Because if you look for the opposite of all those things, you're going to find them. I think one of my favorite quotes from Jesus Christ is that seek and ye shall find. I mean, whatever you're looking for, you're going to find it. And when we anchor ourselves in goodness and in happiness and in things that bring us joy, one of the things I know is that many of you really enjoy coffee because you say so in the morning. I haven't had a cup yet this morning. But the point I want to make is that sitting and enjoying that cup of coffee, that first sip, or at least several minutes. I think I may have told you that when we first got Teddy, my little dog, he was, I think he was a pound when we got him. He was not from the pound, but weighed a pound. He was so small. And so in the mornings, I would pour myself coffee, and then this little puppy would come following me around, and then he wanted to get in my lap, as I've shared before. He's always loved to be hugged. And so I set up this thing. It just started. My first cup of coffee in the morning, I don't look at my phone. I don't plan my Jumpstart. I sit and I hold Teddy Bear in my lap and I drink my coffee. And he's so funny now because if, let's say, I'm sitting there having my coffee and watching the sunrise and Teddy's in my lap, And then I think, hey, what is it I'm talking about in the Jumpstart today? I'm sure I already wrote it and sent it to Miroslav. So what is it I'm talking about? And I'll pick up my phone and I'll start to look at it like this. And what Teddy does is he gets between me and the phone. He's going to anchor himself in that moment. And if I pick up the phone and I'm looking at it, he's between us, he will give me this look. I wish I could do it right, but he goes, and then he'll look at the phone, he'll look at me, he'll look at the phone. And this is a dog. And he's like, come on, man, this is our anchor. This is our daily thing. So what are some of your anchors? What are some of your daily things? And make sure that you are anchoring yourself in good and happy things. That's my alarm clock to wake me up. So what are you anchoring yourself in? What is it that you are focusing on? One of the things that I noticed the other day is that because we live in a condo complex and there are lots of tourists in and out, there's always something to do. And I'm so glad that I'm not a member of the board, because their focus when they're there is not anchored. Some of them I know is not anchored so much on just chilling and having a good time. It's what's wrong in the complex. My anchor is what is wrong? How can we address it? Why did this person park their car there? Why is there trash in this unit? Et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Yesterday, I was thinking about this and thinking about this idea of talking to you and anchoring what I was going to talk about and just enjoying. So, excuse me, I went for a walk, then I worked out in the gym, and then I decided to go lie by the pool here. And as I was lying there, I have work to do. I have this summit that I'm going to tell you about more coming up, where I'm going to be interviewing all these great speakers and thought leaders, and you'll have an opportunity to attend. And I was thinking, okay, I could start sitting on emails. I could respond to this. I could do that. And instead I said, I'm going to be here. I'm going to anchor myself in this moment. Just be here, because I've never been here before. I doubt I'll ever be here again unless somebody hires me to come back to this specific resort. So why in the world, if I've got a few minutes, I always joke I work for myself, but my boss can be a bit of a tyrant if I'm not careful. And so I just decided to sit and look around and look at the winery and look at the vineyards on the hills up above the pool, and just to anchor myself. So I want you today to intentionally anchor yourself in something good, anchor yourself in something positive. And when it happens, take time to feel the energy. This is what my ex-wife Marty was so good about. When good things would happen, she was so cute. She would often get so excited, she would stamp her feet. And one day I asked her why she was doing that. She said, I'm grounding that good feeling in me. Most people are like, well, thank goodness something finally went well. You know, we tend to give too much attention and anchor too much on what's going wrong. And we tend to give too little attention and anchor on what is going right. And ultimately, it's the little things going right that make us happy. I had more fun talking to my daughter in those lines at Universal than I did riding the rides, because I can always go back and ultimately ride those rides. But who knows? We may not be together forever. You know, something may happen to one or the other of us. So look for the people who are important to you. Look for the people who make you feel good. Look for the animals, the times, and take the time to actually anchor yourself in that good feeling. Really take time. Like when Teddy wants to be held, then I could just go, okay, there. All right, good. We got that out of the way. But instead, I hold him, and this is when I'm busy during the day. I'll hold him for a few seconds, 30 seconds, a minute, and I'll just hold him like this. And I literally, the feeling I'm going for, just so you'll know, is to feel his heartbeat, his little tiny heartbeat on my chest. I call him Little Heart. That's my nickname for him when we're together. Call him Little Heart. And I can feel his little heart. And boy, when I get that feeling, if I can feel his little heart beating against my chest while he's hugging me, what a wonderful feeling. but you have to take the time. You have to make sure that you anchor it. So you're going to anchor yourself in something today. You're going to find something that ticks you off, and you're going to continue to bring that up, or find something today that makes you happy, that really gives you joy. I had so much fun last night, as I said, after all this time during the pandemic, to be we ended up at a bar and just talked to people, just really had a wonderful time. I met a man who was a former engineer and had been an engineer his entire life. And he and his wife said, well, how do people get rich? And he said, well, I think real estate. They had no idea. They actually Googled how to get rich in real estate. And they saved money, and they ultimately bought one multifamily apartment building. And now the guy's a billionaire 10 years later. He anchored himself in that moment in how do people get rich, not why do we continually struggle? Do you understand? And then he began to work at it. And within 10 years, the guy is a billionaire. So it's possible. It's what we choose to anchor ourselves in. It's another way of calling it focus. But focus, we often think about, well, that's the direction I'm looking in. I'm talking about your emotions, tying in your emotions, feeling those good feelings when you're in a situation. Make sense? All right, this is your opportunity to share today's Jumpstart. And again, my apologies that things don't look great. I'm in a hotel room, and like most hotel rooms, it has this little 40-watt bulb, which basically does almost nothing. And of course, the sun won't be coming up here for a few hours. So this is your opportunity to click share, and also to tell me anything you would like to share with. Tell me. Let me take a look back here and see all these wonderful comments. Look, somebody has already shared. Oh, lots of great comments. Here we go. Good morning, grateful for coffee. How's your vacation? We talked about that with Brittany a little bit earlier. Brittany says, my anchors are unconditional love for my family, passion for my music, philosophy, and curiosity. Very cool. Hey, Trish, good to see you. Good to see you're here. She says, I am grateful for the ability to not give up and for hope. Wow, amazing. If you cannot give up and continue to maintain hope, you can do just about anything in life. Courtney Williams says, good morning. I'm grateful for early morning exercise. Good for you. That always makes you feel good. When I was talking to Brian, my prayer partner, yesterday, we were both talking about being edgy and like this kind of stuff. And he said, man, I just feel hormonal. And I said, when was the last time you worked out? And he said, about a week ago. And I said, yeah, for me, it was about 3 days ago. So I immediately went to the gym because I felt the same way. This cue to return to the great life intended. Great, says Barb J. Shared, says Barb. That's awesome. Linda says, shared, good message for the day. Thank you. I'm loving the talk today. Anchors, says Pamela Jane. Hey, Pam, you got a new picture. I like it. Very nice. Here's a virtual cup of coffee. I'm actually about to go have a real one. Pam says, my mantra is choosing to be a victim or choosing to be a survivor. There you go. You can be a victim or you can be a victor. You can't be both. You remind me of the Harold Littlebird quote, there are no clocks to measure time, but for the beating of our singing hearts. Very nice, Ed. Love that, dude. Song of the day. Apparently it's an anchor. Yes, song of the day. I'm going to look at these. And I actually picked one out yesterday, but it's 5 o'clock in the morning. I'm a little not with it. I was listening back through this playlist that I created, and I call it, it's for when I do events. And people just really, really enjoy it. Because we play the song before and after. Today's song of the day is going to be One Headlight by the Wallflowers. I'll put that in here. Song of the day. Song of the day. One Headlight. One Headlight. The Wallflowers. So, song of the day, we all listen to the song and ground ourselves. We anchor ourselves in the energy of this song together. What are the dates of the event? Have not finalized those yet. You mean the one where I'm going to be interviewing all of the great new thought leaders? We're going to do the interviews first, and then we're going to pick a day, and they're all going to be run over a 2-day period. It's like a 2-day conference, and it's all going to be online. I'm very excited about this. Trina says, I'm a preschool teacher, so during school months, I anchor myself to the kids as they get dropped off. I make sure I am completely present for them, and they greet me with enthusiasm and positivity. I love that idea, Trina. And when my daughter was little and we would take her to school and take her to her classroom, as you walk through the school, there's a spot where literally, if you're going to any classroom at that school, you have to go through this spot. It's a center where two hallways cross. And the principal, who was this little woman, she couldn't have been 5 feet tall, 90 pounds. She was in that little spot every morning to greet every student, to anchor with that student that I'm here, you're good, I'm good, your teachers are good. And I so appreciated that. I thought that was wonderful. It says I have to recognize when I minimize the good things, then I can then embrace them and maximize them. You know what, Ed? That is absolutely true. Human beings, because of behavioral and economics, we focus on what is wrong rather than what is right. And we need to begin to focus on what is right. Brittany says, shared, she also said. Solidarity, thanks for sharing. I can sing this song, Brittany says. Good. Well, we would love to have you do that sometime. Actually, we can't do that because of copyright. So the song of the day is One Headlight by the Wallflowers. Be sure and give it a watch. Now, I think I'll be here tomorrow. It all depends on what time I wake up, but I plan to be here tomorrow. And if not, I'll have Miroslav do what I call run a classic Jumpstart. We go ahead and have a Jumpstart. It's just one that I've done before and a lot of people have seen. Well, for somebody who just woke up, we've gone about 10 minutes long. So I'm going to say thanks for joining me. Anchor yourself in something good today. Find something good and spend some time enjoying the feeling of that goodness. You'll amplify it in your life. Enjoy today, everybody. I'll see you tomorrow.
No more complaining. People, their lives are changing. We're flying high, creating a complaint-free world. No more complaining. People, their lives are changing. We're flying.